Well, I've been a researcher and a journalist for years, but that was certainly not my subject, what was happening in the sky. I was dumb as dirt, like most of us were, back until I saw a television program about what happened to the people of Oakville, Washington. It turns out that in the mid-1990s, the U.S. military began a germ warfare attack against Oakville, Washington, and they were dumping this mucky, gluey stuff full of bacteria and other strange creatures on the people of Oakville, and then they would send monitors, investigators into Oakville to see how they were doing in making these people sick. That really made an impression on me. Of course, in 1997, when I heard this story, we hadn't yet really become aware of the chemtrails. But I think at that point I was ready to be aware of anything that was happening in the skies because of the Oakville story.
Where did you get information at that time? Because the Internet was sort of just beginning. I mean, there was probably not that much information available at that time. How did you gather information to write and put it into your articles?
Well, thank goodness we had Clifford Carnicom, and Carnicom.com. I think a lot of people started to become acutely and astutely aware in the late 90s, and we just kind of helped one another and learned from one another. And then we began to do more and more research, and we realized our own government, our own military has been playing with germ warfare, using us as test subjects for germ warfare since the 1950s. But the last 20 years, we've just seen a breathtaking and conspicuous attack upon all living things. That in the last 10 years especially, we have seen 4 major projects that appear to be designed to kill us, to sicken us, to reduce human population as quickly as possible.
Okay, can you maybe run through a couple of those projects and tell us a little bit about it?
First and most conspicuous has been the chemtrail project, and we know it's for weather modification and for many military applications, and we know they're using toxic metals like barium and aluminum and many nanopolymers and all kinds of fibers and strange who knows what, genetically engineered things. And we know that the chemtrail project includes the HAARP project, which is filling our ionosphere with microwaves, which then bounce back to us, to our Earth, as ELF, or extremely low frequencies. And they're using all of these techniques to steer weather systems to cause earthquakes and so on. The second project seems to be these fake terrorist attacks, like Oklahoma City and 9/11, of course, which are just excuses to unleash this vicious police state that we seem to be growing. And then the germ warfare project, of course, is on everyone's mind. That would be the third project, and that would include these genetically engineered organisms like the mycoplasmas behind chronic fatigue, and these machines like Morgellons that they're seeding into the atmosphere. Obviously, all of this is intended to weaken and sicken and disable the general population, and maybe even to terrify us.
I think that's true. And why do you think they just don't outright kill people? How come it's a slow process?
I think if they were too conspicuous about the killing process, I think probably more people would be aware and would awaken. They want to keep the majority of people not informed, let's put it that way. So I think they have to be a little bit careful how they do this, but they're just as effective at doing a slow kill. And that brings me to the fourth pillar of their project, and that would be the wireless revolution. But the wireless revolution is, as I say, it's the most pernicious and covert part of the project because we can't see, hear, taste, or smell the radiation that's being used to weaken us. They're using this pulsed ELF embedded microwave radiation, and they're selling it to us as convenience, as something fun. Everybody likes the wireless devices. But I think that is the most dangerous part of the program, and that it's threatening all living creatures.
This is really a focus now of your research, and it's pretty powerful. Skywatchers will have a link to one of Amy Worthington's articles called Generation X-Ray. You're saying that it's a pretty insidious maneuver to take something that human beings love to do, and that's talk to each other, design it in a way that they're pressing a radioactive device right up against their head.
That's right. It is a radioactive device. It is the microwave radiation coming from wireless devices that are in the hands of our children, our old people, and that includes your household cordless phones, your cell phones, Bluetooth devices, wireless laptop computers. All of these devices are just as dangerous as X radiation and gamma wave radiation. That has been proven now by reflex studies coming from Europe.
And as you pointed out in the article, these devices are addictive. In other words, we're in a society that's addicted on this technology that's actually ripping us apart.
That's so true, and it's not just physically addictive, which of course Dr. Henry Lai at University of Washington showed in rat studies that it's extremely physically addictive. And when I say it, I mean the wireless microwave radiation from cell phones can be very addictive, but it's also emotionally addictive, especially for children. The average child now, there are actually 30 million of our children under 17 that are completely addicted. They're obsessed with cell phones and other wireless devices, and we know that the average child from recent polls is using a wireless device on his head up to 4 hours a day. And when you consider that wireless radiation is the supreme carcinogen, it's a superb neurotoxin, it's a magnificent cardiotoxin, that is, it's very hard on the heart and the circulatory system. It is, bar none, the best mutagen and teratogen that we know of, and that means it causes birth defects. And it has the propensity to cause all kinds of nervous system impairments. We know all of these things because that is the latest science. It's there for anybody to see, and we've documented the science, the most recent science, in two articles, actually, not only Generation X-Ray, Child Victims of Technological Abuse, which was in the Idaho Observer in May, but we've also done a previous article called The Radiation Poisoning of America. That was in the September issue of Observer, Idaho Observer last year, and that's also something you can Google. So both of those articles are very important if anybody, any Skywatcher, and I'm sure the Skywatchers are among the most intelligent people we have, so they would appreciate the two articles because they are heavily documented, and you don't have to think it's someone's opinion. This is the latest science. Radiation is lethal. People are very concerned and very glad to have the information. Everyone's so busy, no one has time to dig deeply into the science, and most of it's coming from Europe right now. And of course, as you know, we have a tremendous media blackout on the subject of wireless hazards in the United States because there's so much money involved. I mean, even the mainstream media is involved with all this wireless advertising, and they simply can't let people know the truth.
The thing is, here is New York City accepting $500 million grant from the Homeland Security Department, and so that Northrop Grumman could install this type of technology, not just in front of my face, but all over New York City. Right. So people all over the 5 boroughs of New York City are now in danger from this technology, and yet the Northrop Grumman representatives have been going around to the local community boards and explaining that there's nothing wrong, that these are safe because they use very little power. Right. But that's not the issue. It's not the power. It's the type of radiation, as